Hey, when I was in college, I was dating my wife then at the time. We were dating. You see, we met here at North Coast Church. We started dating, and immediately she goes away to LA to finish 2 more years of school in West LA. And West LA is like up by UCLA. It's like pretty far up, especially the traffic. And so we wouldn't see each other all the time, but on weekends, maybe I'd go up on a Friday and stay for like 4 or 5 hours. And then I'd always have to drive back late at night. And I remember I was driving back one night, and we were hitting a lot of traffic, or I was hitting a lot of traffic. I'm coming down, and I remember that we're coming to this point, and I still remember it because I also like had to go to the bathroom really bad, and so I was hoping to make it. I'm like, I think I can make it home. I know I'm still an hour away, but I think I can hold it. And I'm rushing, trying to get there, and all of a sudden, we're coming into North Orange County, South LA, and the freeway is closed, all right? Now, my first thought is, I have to go to the bathroom, But the second thought is, oh my goodness, this could take forever. So I remember the way the detour took us, they took you off the freeway, and they were just going to take you on some back roads to get you back on the freeway just about a mile or 2 down the road. Okay, so I remember get off on this detour, and I'm trying to follow these signs, but it is dark. It's like 11:30 at night, maybe midnight. I'd been driving for almost an hour, and I'm trying to follow these detour signs, and somehow, I don't know how, but I get lost, okay? Now, when you're in LA, you don't want to get lost, because I've heard all the horror stories. If you get lost and you end up in a neighborhood that you should not be in, and who knows what's going to happen. So I'm freaking out, and I'm trying to figure out how to get back to the freeway. Now, here's the problem is, it was so long ago that we didn't have smartphones. In fact, I didn't even have a cell phone back then. My wife at the time, her parents had paid for her to have a cell phone because she was away at college. I couldn't afford a cell phone because they were so expensive back then for us. And I had no way to get back to the freeway. I just had to guess on, well, if I look at the stars, I'm sure it's got to be this way. I don't know. But it took me, I think, 30, 35 minutes to get back to the freeway. Somehow I missed the detour signs. You see, I tell a story because we're continuing, or actually we're ending our Detours series. And the whole reason why we call it Detours is detours can be very dangerous. You see, my fear is, I've been doing youth ministry over 20 years now, and for some reason, when 8th graders go to high school, there's a lot of you that you try to live life on your own. You're on fire, you're excited about God in junior high, you're really excited, but something happens in junior high, and you start taking these detours. And they seem like small detours in the beginning. Like a detour, it's designed to take you around the trouble. The straightest path would have been, don't close down the freeway. I would have taken 1 minute. But the detour is like, hey, it takes you on a little track. And so some of us take these detours and we don't understand that, yeah, we might make it back on the freeway, but there's normally pain that happens. There's normally bad things that don't happen. And if you were to look back, you go, I wish I wouldn't have taken the detour. But here's the problem is some people take detours, and just like me, you get lost, and you might never make it back to the freeway. You might never make it back. And see, with your relationship with God, there are going to be when you go to high school, for some of you, you're going to take a detour in your relationship with God. And some of you are going to get lucky, you're going to make it back. But I've had story after story of students that never made it back. And here's the thing is, I want to end this weekend with one that I think might be the most important detour. You see, we've been going over the last 3 weeks. We talked about your friendship detour. Friendship detour is important. If you choose the wrong friends, they can take you on a bad path, and you might never get back. Parents. We talked about parents, that you can take a detour with your parents, which doesn't probably sound bad. You're like, well, I'm pushing away. It's not a big deal. But it's like, you don't understand. When things are going well at home, when you have a great relationship with mom and dad, things go great. They can be now one that spurs you on to your relationship with God. And then also we talked about the dating detour. If you choose the wrong person to date, that could be dangerous. They could take you on a path that could take you away from God. All of those are very important. But listen, I think what I want to share today is probably the most dangerous of all of them. You see, it's called the too busy detour. The too busy detour. It's the detour that where you get so busy in high school because you're pushed in so many directions. There's so many opportunities in high school, so many like sports and extracurricular activities, and then even schooling just gets a little more intense that you can become so busy that it starts to take your focus off of God. In fact, if you have your note sheets, here's what I want you to write down. Understand this. Understand that you are going to be pressured to be busy. You are going to be pressured to be busy. There is going to be a pressure in high school to be busy, and you're going to get it from your friends, your parents, and pretty much from the world. There is a pressure that you are supposed to succeed in high school. There's a pressure that you're supposed to do more. There's a pressure that you feel like you have to do these things. And it could come from friends. It could come from your parents, because we have parents sometimes like, I've invested all this money into your sport or into your instrument you're playing or into your dance or into this or into school. Come on, that could be a college scholarship in the future, and there might be pressure, but also there's pressure from the world, just life. And here's the dangerous part is this. All these pressures of being too busy can actually be so dangerous with your walk with God. It can actually sneak up on you and destroy your relationship with God. And you're like, really? Just being too busy? Yes. And so I want to spend the rest of this time and give you 3 reasons why being too busy can be so dangerous in your lives. Why it can be so dangerous. So if you have your note sheets, pull them out. The first reason why it's so dangerous is this, is being too busy takes our focus off our purpose. When you are too busy, when you're focused on trying to succeed in all these different areas, it actually takes your focus off your purpose. You see, purpose is a big deal because that gives us the ability, what makes us, that kind of gives us the North Star of how we're supposed to live our lives. And here's the thing is, I thought my purpose in high school was to be great. I'd gone through junior high wanting to be the best basketball player. I'd gone through junior high having these great grades. And when I got to high school, I felt like my job is to succeed now. My job is to prove myself. And like I said, you're going to get that pressure from friends, family, the world. And I thought that was my job, was to be great. It was to be great. I wanted to achieve something. I wanted people to know who I was. I wanted people at the school to for sure know who Travis Seibert was. I wanted to be great in sports. I wanted fame, and fame didn't mean I'd be the most popular person, but known, liked. And I got my purpose wrong. I thought that was the purpose. You see, I thought my purpose in life was the 3 G's. Grades, girls, and glory. Grades, girls, and glory. Now, some of you girls are like, well, just switch the G from girls to guys. It fits. But I thought it was grades, girls, and glory. And so guess what? Everything I did was I better have great grades so I can go to a good college. I was hoping to find the right girl for me. Oh, that I could have true love in high school. And I was looking for the glory that I would be known. And I thought that was my purpose. And I want you to know something. When we're too busy trying to achieve these things, it takes our focus off what our true purpose is, because that was not my true purpose, but I thought it was. High school kind of sucked me in. No, our purpose is found in a couple very important verses. One is in Matthew 28, 19 and 20. You've heard this millions of times. It's called the Great Commission, that God commands us. Jesus leaving, he says, go and preach the gospel to all the nations, baptizing in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything I've commanded. He said our purpose is to go tell people about Christ. You can also go to Matthew, the Great Commandments, where he said we're supposed to love God, love others. That's our main purpose. Our purpose in life, I thought, was girls, glory, grades, succeeding, and I forgot my main goal was to love God, love others, and the best way to do it is to tell others about Christ. And I forgot my focus. And when I get too busy, we forget our focus. Listen, what I told you are the Great Commission, the Great Commandments, that's supposed to be all of us. That's all of our purposes. But when we're running after and we're too busy with things, we forget our purpose. Now, I say that, and some of you guys are like, well, Trav, does that mean I'm not supposed to do sports? Does that mean I'm not supposed to be in band or do dance or be in choir or get good grades? Because if that's not my purpose, because it's not, why should I do those things? And I said, yeah, I think it's a great question to ask, but here's the thing that we're forgetting is, if we have the right purpose in mind, you can do sports, but through that purpose. You can do band through that purpose. You can do choir through that purpose, dance through that purpose, grades, because guess what? If our goal is to love God, love others, and tell our people about Christ, when you're playing sports, if your goal is to make sure that you set an example and you lead people to Christ, that means you're not forgetting God. That means you're not forgetting your relationship with God. That means maybe you're using your sport, your activity as an opportunity to invite them to church. And then you just brought your purpose back in to why you're doing things. But when we're too busy, it takes our focus off our purpose, and our real purpose is to bring people to Christ. That's our main purpose. You see, even Jesus understood. If you have your Bibles, it's found in Luke chapter 2, verse 48. I love this. Jesus is 12, 13. Guess what? Pretty close to the age of you. There aren't very many stories in the Bible about Jesus when he was a kid. We know him all as an adult. This is one of our only ones where we had a little glimpse to him. I wish there were more stories of, could you imagine him doing miracles when he's 10, like, oh, bring your hand over here. I don't know. Like, he probably did some crazy stuff, but we don't get a glimpse of that. But this is a story that we get a glimpse of, and here's what it says, is Jesus and his parents, they'd gone to Jerusalem. They had to do it twice a year for these big festivals, okay? And they would do these, they would go to Jerusalem, and it was about a 2 to 3 day journey from Galilee, from Nazareth, where Jesus is from. And so they went, and then they left. And I guess they'd go in these huge parties, all family, because all family would go together. So they'd do these huge parties. So they're all going. Well, guess what? They walk a whole day. They're going to sleep that night in a different town. And Mary and Joseph, his parents, find out Jesus isn't there. And they're freaking out like, oh, crud, we thought you had him. We thought you had him, And so they have to now journey a whole day back to Jerusalem. And it says, when the parents got there, in verse 4, it says, when his parents saw him, they were astonished. His mother said to him, son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you. We've been freaking out. And guess what Jesus said? He said, why were you searching for me? Didn't you know I had to be about my father's house? How I had to be in my father's house? I had to be about my father's business. He's like, I had to fulfill my purpose. You know that was going to be more important, this thing. Didn't you know that? Listen, when we're too busy, it takes our focus off our purpose. The second thing is this: being too busy takes our focus off of God. Being too busy takes our focus off of God. Did you know that we can become so busy that we actually forget about God? Some of you guys are like, Trav, I know that. How do you know that? Because guess what? We can be coming to church every weekend. We can be plugged into church. We can do all these cool things. We listen to Christian music, and guess what? We can still become so busy that we forget about God. There's an incredible story in Luke chapter 10, 38 through 42. It's a story about two sisters, Mary and Martha. And Jesus is coming to Mary and Martha's house, and he's going to be preaching there, and they're so excited. Imagine if you had someone like Jesus come in your house. Well, you want your house to look perfect, right? So Martha's fixing up the house. She wants the food to be perfect. She's fixing the food. Well, Jesus shows up. He starts preaching and hanging out with people, and guess who's in the front row? Mary. And Martha's doing all the work, and she is now furious at Mary. She goes to Jesus, Jesus, tell Mary to help me. And Jesus said, no. Because Mary has chose the better thing. He didn't say that what Martha was doing was bad, but he's saying this was the better thing, because sometimes we just need to sit at the feet of Jesus. Because here's the thing is, we can get so busy that it takes the focus off of God. When I was in high school, I was so consumed with wanting to be good at sports. That became my biggest thing. Listen, I worked hard at sports. Basketball was my life. Some of you have that, whatever that sport is, whatever that extracurricular activity is, mine was basketball. And it was so consumed that my freshman year, I was only 5'2", 90 pounds. I was the smallest kid in the school, and I was trying out for basketball at Tri-City. I was one of the best basketball players on the team. I go to Vista, it's the big school, and I remember at tryouts, I made the team, and the coach says, Travis, just so you know, after everyone left, he took me aside, and he says, the only reason you made it is because you worked harder than everyone else. He says, if you want to stay on the team, you have to work like that every single day. And so I remember, I'm like, okay, coach, and I remember I'd work real hard. I mean, what that means is I'd be the first one done with all of our suicides we do. I would never give up. I wasn't the type that walked. Everywhere I went, I ran, whatever I could to prove myself. Well, at the end of the year, I was starting on the basketball team. The smallest guy on the team, I was starting now. And I thought, oh my goodness, God, you're going to use me. I just got to work hard, and I can prove myself. And it so consumed me that even when I got injured and I couldn't play, Coach said, hey, when you're fine, you'll get to play again. So I went to everything basketball. Well, because I went to everything basketball, because I thought that was my dream, I stopped going to our Tuesday night Bible study. I started not going to things because, yes, God, you were important to me, but I was too busy. And I started taking my focus off of God. It's the worst thing I could have done. See, here's the thing is you're going to get so busy that you might actually take your focus off of God. Listen, I want you to hear something that's very important is some of you are going to be so busy that you're going to stop going to Fuel 910 when you get to high school. And I want to challenge you on something. High schoolers, the reason eighth graders who are going to be high schoolers, the reason why I want to talk about why this too busy detour is so dangerous is there are some of you, because you're so busy and you're so consumed with pursuing your goals and your dreams, that you're going to stop being plugged in high school. There's a chance that some of you, because it's not as much fun, you're going to stop going to Fuel 910. Some of you, because your friends don't go anymore. Oh, because you don't like that small group leader, because you don't like the topic. The worship's not the same. I don't know what it is, but you're going to stop going. And I want you to understand something that is the stupidest thing you can do. Because we need to have something that spurs us on. We need to have relationships with other Christians. We need people holding us accountable. And we can become so busy that we stop going. And how do I know? Because I told you, I've been doing this 20-something years, and people leave us in junior high and about 60% stick and 40% stop. Do you know how sad that is? In fact, listen, if you stop going to Fuel because of some excuse, you're too busy, because you don't like what's going on there and all that, if you stop going, you just wasted Taylor's, mine, Scott's. You wasted our last 2 years. You wasted, you came for 2 years. You loved junior high, but if you're not going, you pretty much said, F you, Trav. That's pretty much what you told me. Who cares about the last 2 years and the time put in? Because I don't care anymore. That's what you're saying. When you get too busy, because it was a waste of my time then to pour into you. It was a waste of my time to preach to you on the weekends, and Taylor and Scott and us. There was a waste for us. Because if the goal is for you to be in heaven, and if you're not following God tomorrow, who cares about the last 2 years? Sometimes we can become so busy that we take our focus off God. Guess what? Even Jesus, it's found in Luke chapter 5. And I could show you verse after verse. Luke chapter 5, Mark chapter 1, Matthew 26. Even in Luke chapter 25, it says that Jesus was so busy. And in Luke 5:15, it says, yet the news about him spread all the more. So crowds of people came to hear him and be healed of their sickness. People were coming to see Jesus. He was preaching. He was busy, busy, busy. And it says, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. He needed to get away. He needed to get his focus back on God, because sometimes you can be so consumed with healing, so consumed with doing good things, you forget who God is. Being too busy and take your focus off of our purpose, which is to love God, love others, and bring them to Christ. It can take our focus actually off of God. And the last thing is this, being too busy can take our focus off of eternal rewards. Can take our focus off eternal rewards. Here's the thing, is we can become so busy that we are pursuing earthly rewards. Listen, let's just be honest. It's all right that we want to achieve things, but we can become consumed with it. We can become consumed with the here and now. In fact, that's part of the American dream, is to get. If I just had that, I'd be happy. If I just had that, I would be happy. And what happens is we forget it's not about now. It's not about now. Who cares? You know what's funny is this. No one knows what grades I got in high school. No one knows what college I went to. I'm not hanging out with people like, Trav, what are you doing? Well, I'm a youth pastor, good for you. But wait, what college did you go to? Oh, you went to San Marcos? Psst, you suck, Trav. I went to Harvard. No, we don't even talk about that, but it's so weird that that's in high school. That's what I was concerned about. Did you know that I wanted to go to UCLA so bad, and I couldn't get in because I only had a 3.9 and needed a 4.3 to go there? I could not get into UCLA, so I thought I was a below person to go to Cal State San Marcos. What? Is that stupid? But that's weird how we get consumed on earthly rewards. And we forget that our focus should be on eternal rewards. You see, there was a student in our youth group that told me this story how when he was in high school as his junior year, he became the starting quarterback at RBV. Okay? Now, I want you to know something. When you are the starting quarterback at a big-time high school, you are the man in the school. Everyone knows who you are. It's one of the most important, figures in a big-time high school. So he is the starting quarterback as his junior year. The team's not as good, but there's a lot of promise. The next year, they're going to be great because all these young people are going to be becoming seniors now. They're going to be good. And so he's the stud quarterback with ideas that, guess what? If I do good my senior year, all the girls are going to want me. I'm going to be homecoming king, and every college is going to want me. He's set up. So over the summer, playing football, he's on the team. They're doing all these practices. Coach loves them. They're all in sync. And he realizes, my high school summer camp at church is the same week as Hell Week. Everyone knows you don't miss Hell Week. You miss Hell Week, you might not get to play. And he's the starting quarterback. He's like, I won't lose my position. So he goes to the coach 3 weeks before. Coach, just so you know, I won't be there the first week of Hell Week, but I'll be there the second week. Don't worry. He's like, no, you got to be at Hell Week. And he's like, Coach, I have youth group. I have youth group camp. And he's like, so what's more important, youth group camp or football? And he's like, Coach, that's harsh to say. I'm not saying that. And he's like, no, which one you're going to have to choose? And he's like, well, I'm not missing on my relationship with God. So when the choice comes, he decides to go to camp. Now, some of you guys are like, Trav, camp's fun. Yeah, you know what? Camp's fun, but what happens at camp, I can't tell you. There's some things that happen that ignite, start a relationship with God. Sometimes amazing things happen. And he chose it. He said, I don't care. I'm going to that. And he goes to camp, and when he gets back, Coach gave his starting quarterback position to someone else, and he had to sit on the bench the rest of the year. He gave up his earthly rewards because his eternal rewards were way more important. But here's the thing is, I'm willing to bet everyone in this room, there's a huge handful of you, a higher percentage that would be like, heck no, Trav. I am choosing the football. I'm choosing this. I don't think we understand. What if you, as you started getting busy, said, nope, I'm not going to let it take away my relationship with God. I'm not going to let it take me from getting plugged in. And you start slowly saying, forget you, team. I want to be great there. I'm going to work my butt off, but I'm not going to let it take my focus off of God because I'm more concerned of heavenly rewards. Because here's the thing. Have you guys ever heard of a guy named Solomon? Solomon was the third king of Israel. He was King David's son. And Solomon is considered the wisest, richest person to ever live on the planet. Okay? That's how rich and how wise he was. He was the most famous person at his time, and he's still known today. And there's a story where he writes a book called Ecclesiastes. It's right after Psalms and Proverbs. If you go to the middle of your Bible, it's probably going to be Psalms or Proverbs there. And then just go to the right just a little bit to Ecclesiastes chapter 1. And this is Solomon talking. And he has this whole book of Ecclesiastes where, listen to what this book's about. This book is, he said, because I was rich, because I was famous, because I had wisdom, I pursued to see what it would take to be happy. And he said, I did everything. He said, I bought whatever I needed, whatever I wanted. If I wanted something, I did it. If I wanted a certain girl, I got her. It says he had over 1,000 concubines, hundreds and hundreds of wives. Anyone that he wanted to sleep with, he would just sleep with her. He did whatever he wanted. If he wanted to have a certain food, they would cook whatever he wants, whatever kind of alcohol he wanted, whatever he wanted. He said he pursued everything because his desire was to be happy. And look at what he says. He said, I, the teacher, in Ecclesiastes 1:12, I, the teacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem. I devoted my stuff to study and explore by wisdom all that is done in heaven. Everything. I wanted to study everything to find out what would truly make me happy. What a heavy burden God has laid on men. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them. I've done everything. And listen to what he says. All of them are meaningless. A chasing after the wind. The whole book is him saying that was a waste of time, that was a waste of time, that was a waste of time. So guess what? I am not saying sports are a waste of time. I'm not saying getting good grades is a waste of time. I think you need to do them. But when our focus is wrong and our focus is just on achieving it, it's a waste of time. You know what's not a waste of time is? Yeah, half my basketball team became Christians because of my witness there. Worth your time. Hey, in school, I got such good grades that I had impact on people, and people started coming to Fuel 910 with me. Not a waste of time. My fear is you're going to get so busy, you're going to go on a detour, and you're never going to come back. How do we change that? How do we change that? Here's my challenge for you is this. My challenge is this. Go ahead and click it because mine's written differently for me, so go ahead and click it for me to the next one. Make your youth group, Fuel 910 or Jade 78, a priority, and then click it again. Make your youth group a priority. There should be one more. Or there you go. And don't let your busy schedule keep you from being plugged into a Christian body of believers. You need to be plugged in. That is my fear for you, is if you don't get plugged into 910, you pretty much wasted these last 2 years. Let's pray.